Welcome, everyone, to this meeting, joint meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council and the South Kingstown School Committee. This is a budget work session. It is April 13th, Wednesday, 7 o'clock. First order of business, as always, is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join me.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do the roll. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Thank you. Steve, you want to take it away for us?
Yeah, I thought I would give you a short introduction, which you know will take a while.
Thank you.
I wanted to start out as far as the budget process is concerned so that everyone is aware of how we got to today and where we're going over the next month. First, the town charter governs the town council's budget process and the adoption process as well. The capital budget is considered by the town council first. This year, the council had work sessions on January 5th, 6th, and 13th, and adopted the capital improvement program for the next six-year program on January 25th. The first year of that capital budget was then incorporated into the municipal budget for the 2016-2017 year, which runs from July 1st of 2016 through June 30th of 2017. The municipal budget development process began with the council receiving a budget document on February 1st and holding a series of work sessions. Those work sessions were held on February 29th, March 1st, March 2nd, and then a joint session on March 9th with the school committee. On March 28th, the town council adopted a preliminary budget. That preliminary budget is represented this evening on the warrant that is available. If anybody needs a copy of it, it's on the table. The preliminary budget is now in place and is up for discussion and review this evening. The next step in the budget process will be for the filing of any petitions from any group of qualified electors or voters looking to increase or decrease the budget with 25 signatures. To date, 3 petitions have been requested to be circulated in the town by 3 different individuals. The form of those petitions have been approved by the town clerk. One seeks a $25,000 increase in the municipal budget to expand sidewalk clearing programs of snow. The second petition that's in circulation requests $5,000 as an increased contribution to the Wakefield Village Association. The third petition that is circulating seeks $10,000 for the purpose of updating the town's inventory of historic structures. In addition, the council received a letter last month that requests a $5,000 contribution to the VFW post for improvements to that facility. The council referred that letter to the April 25th council meeting, at which time a final town council budget will be adopted for review and consideration. As I noted, our final budget process will end on April 25th when the council takes under consideration adoption of the final budget, which may reflect simply the preliminary budget as adopted or any and all amendments that may be considered as well as the fate of the petitions if sufficient signatures are provided and those petitions move forward for deliberation. Subsequent to the budget adoption process, once the council has adopted the budget, there is an ability for groups to request a referendum to amend the budget of either the general fund or of the school fund. To do so would require action that would increase or decrease either of those two funds by more than $250,000 and would require a minimum of 200 signatures. Were a referendum to meet the filing requirements, the referendum would be conducted on June 7th of 2016 on an all-day referendum conducted as an election from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. That, in capsule, is the budget process that we work with under the town charter and where we are today. I want to start out as far as the property tax implications associated with the preliminary budget that has been adopted by the council. The first block shows you the proposed budget for the 2016-17 year, and it indicates that there will be a need for $70,380,155 property tax dollars as the tax levy for the 16-17 year. And were that budget to be approved as presented, it would require a tax rate of $15.82. As noted in the budget presentations to date, we have presented that estimate based on the 2012 values that the last revaluation provided. The revaluation that is mandated by state law to update values as of December 31st of 2015 will be used in the determination of the tax rate for the 2016-2017 year. Approximately 90% of the revaluation is complete at this time, and what we're anticipating is a value increase of approximately 5.6 to 5.7% over the current year assessment values. We had predicted at the time of budget development a 5% increase, so we're a bit above what had been anticipated in January and February when we presented the preliminary budget document. With the new values used to establish the 16-17 year, we're projecting at this point a property tax rate of between $15.09 and, let's say, $15.11. I think we're that close at this point. That rate also takes into consideration the council's actions on Monday evening, where the veterans exemption for 3 of the classes of exemptions was increased by $20. The overall cost of that program, now that we've had a chance to calculate it, is at about $14,000. It's a bit over what we had estimated. Some of the value showed up in motor vehicles where the higher tax rate was computed. The average value of a single-family home will increase from $334,000 on the estimate that we made in January, February, to $350,180. What that means is that the average increase in terms of property tax levy assessed to an average home will increase over the current year's tax levy by approximately $137. When we did the estimate in January, February, we estimated it at $139. So again, the crystal ball was pretty good this year in terms of those estimates. So again, I think one of the most important things I want to convey this evening is that those folks that have got new assessment values from the revaluation company going through the reval process and are concerned that we're using a rate of $15.82, that is not what will occur. On June 15th, we will certify the tax roll for the 2016-17 year using the new values as of December 31st of 2015, and we're anticipating on the average home in South Kingstown, and again, nobody has an average home. Everybody has, it seems like everybody I've talked to has a home of greater value than they, but on the average home, and when I say average home, that's by taking all single-family units in Class 1 and dividing it by the number of units that exist in that. If we were to look at the median price, the median price would probably be closer to a $380,000 value. But on an average, which is the easiest way to calculate, and I think a good yardstick, we're looking at an average increase for that home at $137 next year. The levy increase for next year will be $1,875,173. Of that amount, 75% of those dollars will go for school purposes, both for the transfer to the schools and associated debt for school bonds, and the remaining 25% will be used for municipal purposes. The preliminary budget that we're presenting here for public hearing tonight for the 2016-17 year is a new format. It presents a municipal budget program that includes 10 municipal funds, all identified on that front sheet. The first fund that's presented is the general fund. The general fund has been restated for the 2016-17 year by removing from it any of the tax appropriations which in the past have been appropriated both in the general fund and also in the school fund, the senior services program fund, and in the wastewater fund. Now we're simply appropriating those dollars once in each of those funds. The reason for doing this is to be able to document what the true costs are associated with the municipal program. So we're seeing that overall municipal expenses related to general government, public safety, public works, and so forth will cost $23,193,755. That is a $604,106 increase over the current year, or 2.7% over the base year. General fund revenues for the year, again, a portion of the property tax levy will stay with the general fund. That amount is equal to the, have you got that number there? Approximately $16.5 million. As we walk through each of these different programs, I'd ask if there's any questions that council, school committee, or the public has to stop me so that I can address the questions while we're on that fund. The expense and revenue statement for the general fund is different than each of the other funds. We have put all of the other 9 funds into a universal form, which shows wages, benefits, commodities, and capital improvements. Again, what we're attempting to do is to have the municipal budget in South Kingstown available to be compared with other communities that would be using the same type of a chart of accounts. One of the questions we always got in prior years when we had all of our fringe benefits in fringe benefit accounts rather than in the operating departments was, why did our police department budget look so much smaller than the police department in North Kingstown or in Narragansett? Now what we're trying to do is to have the different towns all be able to present budgets in a similar manner so that unit costs can be looked at in terms of whether there's other efficiencies that need to be looked at or comparisons on how different programs are being operated. We're not there yet, but once we can get cities and towns to all agree on a standard chart of accounts and the use of those accounts, I think there'll be greater comparison available for the general public on how their money is being expended on a yearly basis. The overall property tax is $17,397,000 for the general fund. That's also inclusive of overlay requirements or the monies that we have to budget for taxes that aren't going to be collected in the current year that the tax levy is assigned. The second fund, if there's no questions on the general fund, I will move on. The second fund, which is also one of our major funds, is the school fund. The school fund is showing a expenditure of $59,926,334. This is an increase of $796,300 over the current year, or a 1.35% increase in that budget document. The property taxes that are necessary to support the program, however, are going up by $1,073,000. And this is, again, a case of where we continue to see reductions in state aid. In the 2016-17 year, we're anticipating over a $300,000 reduction in aid coming for school supports from aid education. So what we're seeing is a minimal increase of 1.35 on the expenditure side, yet a 2.1% increase in the support coming from the property tax levy. As I said earlier, you're looking at about 75 cents of every dollar we collect or assess. That will end up for educational purposes. Are there questions as far as school fund are concerned, or comments that the school committee would like to make? We could address those now before we move on. Would you please go to the microphone, sir? Identify yourself for the record.
My name is Tom Zarum, and I live in Wakefield Meadows. Regarding the reduction of the state's contribution to the school fund, what's the reason for that? They just don't have the money? Is that what it is, or?
I believe it was 5 years ago that the education aid formula was established for Rhode Island.
I see.
At that time, the education aid formula was set up where they looked at what the wealth of a community was, what the amount of children that were on free or reduced lunches, the special education needs within each of those districts, and established a formula. When they came up with the formula, South Kingstown and about 7 other towns were shown to be having more aid than what the formula would calculate that they were entitled to. So what the state agreed to do is to downsize the funding over a 10-year period, and the average reduction over that 10 years to take $3 million away from us was around $300,000 a year. So we're seeing less aid because we're coming into compliance with the state's adopted education reimbursement aid formula.
Would that formula be subject to change as time goes on and fortunes improve, perhaps, for the state?
If it changes, it would change based on the unit value of education statewide, and we would still have to look at the variables that determine what percent of that total pot of money is going to be distributed to South Kingstown. Obviously, a community with less income or an urban area would be entitled to a larger share on a per-child basis. The formula also looks at the number of students that we are educating, and over the past several years, we have seen a substantial reduction in the number of school-age children within the community.
Right.
So our costs have for education aid reimbursement go down based on the unit, the lesser units on a yearly basis, or lesser students on a yearly basis.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions that are associated with the school fund? If not, I would move on. The next fund is the Peacedale Office Building Fund. Again, this program is going down by $3,177, about a 3% reduction. This program is supported, about 90% of it from rents of the 6 tenants that are there, or self-supporting programs. This building is used for leisure service programming, as well as it staying in commercial rent base. We use any of the income that is generated by that building, stays with the building, and is used for building improvements. No tax dollars are provide for Peacedale Office Building. Senior Services Program is the next program. Our program is looking at an $814,530 cost in the 2016-17 year. There are 4 program components. One is our transportation program for seniors. It comes in at around $71,000. The nutrition program, which is the meals program that's run at the senior center, is in at about $122,000. Our day services program is costing about $312,000, and the community senior center is costing approximately $308,000. So overall, we're looking at a $30,257 increase, or about a 3.9% increase in the cost of our seniors program. I would note for the record that 3 of the senior programs are providing regional services and reimbursements from the town of North Kingstown and Narragansett. North Kingstown on the adult services, and Narragansett on both the nutrition and the center operation itself. If there's no questions, I can move on to the Neighborhood Guild at the top of the second column. You're seeing about a $52,000 reduction in the budget for the 2016-17 year. That reduction is because last year was the last year of debt service on a $1 million bond that had been employed 20 years ago. So there was a $52,000 reduction in debt service, and we've balanced that budget really with no increase in terms of operational expenses. Again, the Neighborhood Guild is one that no property tax dollars are associated with. Funds are either through program revenues or through endowment investment earnings held exclusively for the benefit of the Neighborhood Guild program. Any questions? If there's none, I'll move on to the Community Recreation Center Fund. Community Recreation Center Fund was a new municipal program fund that was established earlier this year. It will be used as the operating budget for the operation of the Community Recreation Center, which is currently under construction. The cost of $181,733 for the 16-17 year assumes a 6-month operation. We anticipate completion of the new facility by December 31st and opening sometime in January or February of next year. At this point, there are 2.9 full-time equivalent employees anticipated to be resident within this fund, and that's where our $105,000 wage estimate comes from at this point. I would note for the record that we are anticipating that the cost of that operation will be in the area of $400,000, $400,000 to $500,000, $500,000 in the 17-18 year for the first year of operations. The key will be what can be self-supporting revenues coming into that program, but for the 16-17 year, overall program is $181,000, of which property tax dollars will be required of the $171,000. Are there questions on the Recreation Center. If there are none, I'll move on to the Debt Service Fund. For the 16-17 year, the council authorized the development and use of a debt service fund. What a debt service fund does is it takes all school debt and all municipal debt and brings that in so that the revenues associated with third-party income, such as education reimbursement for buildings or impact fee dollars, will go into the debt service fund. This provides a better opportunity to show what the true property tax impact is that's associated with debt service, both on the school side and on the municipal side. As we talked about, we've got a $1.2 million property tax transfer that will go to the debt service fund in the 2016-17 year. Other transfers will also go in there, but there'll be state aid of about $560,000, as well as the property tax transfer of $1.2 million. I think that the impact fees amount to another probably about $250,000. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer it. Hearing none, I'll move on to the enterprise funds. The Water Enterprise Fund still has and maintains 2.7 full-time employees. We're looking at about a $15,000 reduction from current year operational expenses. Some of that is directly related to reduced cost on capital outlay, and also some of our service expenses are down. The Water Fund provides service for South Shore Water System and the Middlebridge Water System. It does not provide or service anything outside of in Kingston or in the village of Wakefield. That is through United Water. Our water rates are the same as they have been for the past 2 years. This will be the third year that will have a minimum billing quarter for $48, in excess billed on a quarterly basis if it's over 1,250 cubic feet within a quarter at about $3.25, or if it's over 2,500 cubic feet at $3.75 per 100. And 100 cubic feet's use of 748 gallons of water. If there's no questions, I'll move to wastewater. Wastewater has 15.35 full-time equivalents. Its rates are also the same as they were in current year. We're looking at an annual fee of $240 and an excess rate of $3.25 for over 10,000 cubic feet of water use. And our wastewater system serves primarily the Kingston and Wakefield, Peacedale area. Certainly it does not extend out to the outer reaches of the community. The solid waste fund shows a half of a full-time equivalent in this department itself. This serves for two purposes. One is for the operation of the transfer station to reimburse. It costs about $252,000 to take in the trash and transport the trash that comes in that's residential to the facility in Johnston, the state facility. We also have expenses associated with the closeout of the two Superfund sites, and we're spending about $285,000 a year through this fund to cover debt associated with those two programs. We would hope that over the next 12 to 18 months, that once we're able to develop the solar farms on each of the three landfills that we have been involved with, that we will see a new income stream that will offset some of the costs associated with debt. Again, there's no property taxes that are going in to the solid waste program at this point. Since the facility is owned by the town and leased by the town, the rental payments offset a major portion of our cost of operating that facility through that third-party vendor. That's a synopsis of the 10 funds of the preliminary budget adopted by the council. The last section on this page gives you a summary of each of the budgets, and you can see that overall budgets are going up $1.24 million, or 1.36%. So the overall increase in the municipal program is at 1.36%. Unfortunately, the tax levy increase, as I said earlier, would be at the 2.7%. And again, a portion of that is both municipally related as well as school purpose related. The second page of the warrant provides a summary of budget transfers that the council will be asked to authorize, which affects or allows the actions to be taken that are a part of the municipal budget. If the capital budget within the general fund is adopted for the year, the first resolution provides for a transfer to the reserve funds for the dollars to be expended out of those reserve funds. So you've got all of the recreation improvements or public works or police improvements. These are dollars that would be appropriated within the $1.4 million capital budget, and each of those will go into assigned capital reserves where the dollars will be held for expenditure for the specific projects identified in the adopted capital improvement program. The second resolution on the page and the third resolution and the fourth resolution also provide for the necessary transfers of fair share development fees for school purpose and for recreation purpose to pay debt in the debt service fund. Also for open space reserve fund to transfer dollars to the debt service fund. This is a means of being able to reduce what the tax effort is that's necessary to pay the debt service. And each of those three revenues are shown as revenues within the budget document itself. The fifth is also a transfer into the debt service account. This assumes that a roof improvement will be made at the South Road School, and with that, that roof improvement, there was a bond that was taken out when the roof improvement was made several years ago. The debt service associated with that roofing is $9,519. There is a South Road Reserve Fund which takes in rental income for use of that building, and those dollars are held in the reserve to pay down the debt. So if there's $9,500 in debt payment for 16-17, we'll transfer that out of the South Road Reserve Fund to the debt service fund. Again, so that we can have everything go out of one fund, and we can also account for all the different revenues other than the property taxes that go into the debt program. The sixth resolution is with the Peacedale Office Building and Neighborhood Guild and EMS billing service funds providing revenues to the general fund. The EMS is providing $590,000. The town has an emergency medical services program where we offer cardiac care, paramedic level care throughout the community. We provide billing to those persons with insurance or insurance companies that would be responsible for persons injured in accidents. The billing provides the revenue into the EMS Billing Services Fund, and we take a certain portion on a yearly basis to reduce what the cost is of operating the EMS program. That's $590,000. On Peacedale Offices and Neighborhood Guild, those two small transfers are a reflection to reimburse the general fund for services rendered for accounting purposes for those two minor funds. The last item here is the deed of gift transfer from the Neighborhood Guild. As I mentioned earlier, a major portion of the funds to operate the guild are coming from the Neighborhood Guild trust funds. The trustees of the school fund, of the South Kingstown School Funds, manage the Neighborhood Guild endowment. That endowment will provide us with $386,500 to offset costs during the 16-17 year based on the Neighborhood Guild budget that was adopted by the council. So each of these resolutions implement the actions necessary to implement the budget that is going to be adopted by the council. Certainly, there may be additional adjustments that will be made based on either the petitions or other changes that the council feels warranted in adjustments. Any changes that the council were to make at this time going forward would also require us to amend the revenue statement accordingly to ensure that the budget remains on a balanced base. That concludes my short presentation of the budget document. Again, if there's any questions, I would be glad to answer those at this time, or try to shed some light on whatever issue needs to be presented.
Steve, I had a quick question. You were talking about the EMS department and how we see revenue from the billing of insurance companies or people who don't have insurance. Do we also see revenue from the police department in a similar fashion when they ticket or anything like that? And does that help offset anything?
Yes, a part of the police department's revenues are fines and speeding ticket income that comes from there. That comes into the general fund.
Okay, so it doesn't have to have the similar resolution that we have here for EMS?
No, because it stays with the general fund. It's received by the general fund and held by the general fund.
Okay.
Here, we're talking about it coming into a separate fund that then needs an authorization to transfer it out.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the council or the school committee? All right. At this time, you've heard the whole presentation, folks. If you'd like, please come up to the podium and tell us what you think about the budget or something you'd like to see in it that's not there. Or if not, thank you for your presentation, Steve. It was very short. And I like the format here, the new format. Any comments from the public?
Well, I'll just say, I mean, we've been looking at this budget for months now. You all did an amazing job putting it together and explaining it in such great detail. You know, I believe we've already asked all the questions and had them answered, so I appreciate that. And I think everyone did a really good job, so thank you.
Just one final comment for the public. It's important to note that we've got another meeting tomorrow evening, which will be a carbon copy presentation of what tonight's meeting is, other than whatever questions may come from the floor. So I think that's important. I also want to say that I appreciate the comments that the council has made in terms of the new budget format. Obviously, preparing over a 400-page document documenting council goals and objectives and tying those to each of the budget accounts themselves, providing both statements of what's been accomplished and what needs to be accomplished, really took the work of every one of the departments, and certainly a great deal of the work came through our finance director, who did a marvelous job in terms of spearheading this, and Amy Reiner, who did a great deal of the formatting and getting the department directors to understand the difference between a goal and an objective. And I do want to give them credit for that, as well as with Colleen in my office, who always does a fabulous job in keeping us on schedule and doing a lot of the narrative rights. So it is important to note, too, that if people do have questions, the entire budget document, all 400-plus pages, are on the town's website and available for download or for review. They're also available in the library. The school's budget is also available online for further review. That's all I got for you.
I had one more question, too. You had mentioned that you project for the 2017-18 year for the rec center, the operating budget would be about $500,000. Is that what you said earlier?
Yes.
So how did we get to 500,000 if for 6 months we think it's 187,000?
There'll be substantial increases in terms of the utility costs that we're looking at than what we would have. We're really expecting that when we put that budget together, we said 6 months. I think it was probably less than 6 months that we really anticipate that we'll have expenses. The heating costs are going to be less because we're going to miss a good portion of the winter. And again, we projected that at a high amount. Let me see if I can find the exact amount. The expenses that we anticipated was $450,000. Some of the major changes was in the electricity and natural gas, which is directly related to the operational conditions. We also anticipated that with full year, the cost of benefits would be higher because we were figuring on family coverage with 2 of the individuals who were going to be there. That's where the major expenses. The other thing is that we threw a contingency of $34,000 in, assuming that there would be unknown pieces of equipment that we were going to need to bring that forward. So it was $450,000, and we were expecting that property tax-wise would go from the $171,000 in the current year up to $425,000 next year, with $25,000 coming from rental income or program income of things that were occurring there.
Have you heard from anybody that is interested in contributing regularly to use of the rec center?
We have not started the program to actually start looking for that at this point. The Recreation Commission is sizing that up on how they can do it. I think, as I mentioned in my budget message, I think that there is a need to look for program sponsors and for building sponsors, room sponsors, and to determine whether there's groups that are willing to contribute to be able to have dedicated hours for use within the building. And certainly we expect that the school department will be contributing a lot of money to its operation.
Did you have a question, Meg, or
I
comment?
don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you. I wasn't even going to speak to this, but Steve, in our last conversations, I do remember 456,000, and that was something that we voted on, and it's probably a little bit more now. But I want to sit here and say that I applaud everybody who has contributed the time and effort to this budget, including the school committee and everybody that works for the town. It's a monumental task to move a mountain here, because there's so many different opinions and there's so many different dollars that need to be addressed and spent within a certain constraint of budget. So I feel very proud to say I'm thankful for the work that everybody on the school committee and the school side and the town and the department heads and financially, I'm very happy that we are very blessed with a town that really takes care of the people and the quality of life. It's huge. You know, you can't give away the store. It's a hard thing. Not everybody's ever going to be happy, but great job done by everybody.
Just in terms of, for full disclosure, we talked about, and the question was on the community rec center, we talked about that budget being about $4.25. Understand too that we're going to be bonding $4.15 million. First year debt service won't come into play in the 16-17 year, but we will see a payment in 17-18. So you're going to be looking at several $100,000 in new debt payment that's going to be required. We have escrowed about $220,000 in the debt service fund to be able to offset a portion of that cost in 17-18. But there still will be additional cost in 17-18 outside of the operational cost. There will be that debt service cost that will come into the budget play.
Right, if I see no other comments, then I would entertain a motion to close the public debate, or the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. And a motion to adjourn. Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. All in favor? Aye.